a solution to this problem of big tech basically undermining and having all this control over infrastructures. The idea that we can do things in a different way, and there's a role for the commons here, but there's also a large role for the institutions and for the public. The state has to take responsibility, has to develop and invest and build this economy and society that they want to see. And I think we also see a move towards that, kind of the loss of belief in neoliberal markets that are going to solve everything. Nowadays, everybody's talking about industrial policy again. And I would say we also need this industrial policy, this outlook of building for the digital domain. And of course, we've had quite a lot of regulations regulating in Europe. The DMA, the DSA, the Data Act, that needs to be enforced. But apart from regulating, as institutions, as governments, as public institutions, we also have to build and invest in what we want to see, because it's not just going to emerge. It has to be this collaboration as well between the public and society and the commons and the public. Open source, but what is it actually? When is it a digital commons? And I think it's a digital commons is in a way is a subset of the commons. So there's always a community, there's always a resource, and there's always rules. And there is a community jointly stewarding a resource. In this discussion about who controls the public infrastructures, who controls the education, the infrastructures we use in schools or in governments, where do we store our files, how do we communicate? The digital commons can play a role in providing this public infrastructure. Commons network works quite a bit, like what is happening here as well, with different levels of government. We work with the municipality of Amsterdam. We work also with the Dutch government in looking at where there is now quite some interest in kind of becoming less digitally dependent. Like this realization, like, oh, we are so dependent. This might be a problem. Maybe we have to change. After, of course, investing all of the money in big tech for years and years and years. Now there's this realization, which is quite strong in the Netherlands as well. Like, okay, there needs to be change, but how, right? So now we're looking, for example, with the Dutch government, we're looking, okay, what are these digital commons then? How can we have a joint understanding of what they are and what they can contribute to? Which societal goals can they contribute to? They can to sovereignty, but what is that? Is that self-determination on a personal level, or is it only sovereignty on a societal level? Can they contribute to strategic autonomy or economic transition? And what is important? What is politically interesting as well, right? So we're looking at that, like what societal goals can they contribute to, but also how can governments relate to them? How can they support them? Can they, because there's different ways to do it, right? You can stimulate, invest, support, finance. You can also adopt. You can use it yourself. You can install, get all the civil servants to use Nextcloud, or that's an important way, which is also important as an example for society. Like we're using it, so which a lot of governments are starting to do, but indeed more like in France and Germany, are a little bit ahead of us. And you can also take part. An institution can also co-build a digital commons. For example, a sovereign desk space where you also take a role as a public institution to develop it. You have your own developers and you are part of the process. So there's different ways which a government can engage. And I think, one important aspect is this idea of collective action, that as you see, there are a lot of alternatives. And if for years, institutions and governments on different levels would have all invested in these alternatives, they would be more seamless now. They would be more attractive. They would be, but sometimes one government does this, München tries LibreOffice, but then it's just one government. But imagine all these cities would do that together at the same time, or all governments would go, so it's would together adopt something or explore something. So I would say a lot of this is also, apart from all the other factors, is a collective action problem. So for us, it means a lot of, for civil society, it means coordination, but also for public institutions. Yeah, so the EDIC for Digital Commons is an initiative that is, I guess, trying to solve this collective action problem to a certain extent. So the EDIC for Digital Commons is a very long term. It's European Digital infrastructure consortium for the digital commons. And EDIC is basically a legal entity. It's a new European legal entity for digital infrastructure, because Europe also realized, damn, we've got to do something about our digital infrastructure, right? What are we going to do? Let's make it possible to start kind of a lean and mean legal entity, which is this EDIC, which allows for member states to join sort of a coalition of the willing to set up a project. But they are intergovernmental European organization, and they will get, tax exemptions and funding. So it's and have a certain relationship with the Commission as well. So there's different. This just started a few years ago. There's different EDICs. There's one on digital twinning. There's one on large language models, I think. And there's now the Netherlands, France, Germany, and Estonia, with Slovenia as observer country, are setting up an EDIC for the digital commons, which was originally initiated by France, who also did a lot of work at the European level when they had the presidency. And now they're in the process of setting it up, and they have also involved quite some civil society there. And hopefully next year it will be there. And it's not an easy process, but it's moving. And Commons Network has had the opportunity to be advising the Dutch government from civil society on this process.